Hi friends, Jessie here from jessiebanks.com and welcome back to another video. So today what I am doing for you guys is I am pulling out this Majestic Peony stamp set from Gina Designs, and I'm going to use some Holbein watercolors here. I have Shell Pink, Gray of Gray, and Mars Violet. I also show you this Indian Throne Blue. I use a little bit of it in the background and decided I didn't like it, so I don't use it anymore. So kind of ignore it. You don't even need it if you're trying to recreate the same colors anyway. So I have a nice thick sheet of watercolor paper here. I can't even remember what type of paper this one is offhand. It was one I tried from the art store. If I remember it, I'll link it. I'll list it down below. If I don't, I'll list it as soon as I find out. It's like a 300-pound watercolor paper though. I just had it, so I figured I'd use it. So I am going to start by putting my big peony, the Majestic Peony stamp, inside of the Misty, and I'm going to ink that up with my VersaFine Onyx Black ink. And we're going to stamp that out. I do stamp it twice, just to get it as black as I possibly can before we start painting. Lots of these colors that we're painting with today are opaque watercolors, so the black doesn't show through them very, very well. So I wanted to kind of get that nice and stark and black before we started here. So now that that's done, I'm going to tape it down to my surface using some black washi tape, and we're going to jump into the painting. So I'm starting off with the Shell Pink, holy crud, with the Shell Pink paint here. Oh, that was a tongue twister and I'm not sure why. And I'm just starting by splashing it onto the background. So I'm putting it in more concentrated blobs and then taking some thinner paint and some water just to kind of flush it out all around the entire card. Being very, very messy with it. I'm really not trying to fill in all of the flowers. I'm not trying to keep it inside of the lines. I'm just messily splatting it all over the place. This card came together very quick. I think it took me about a half an hour from start to finish, just over that. So it's lots of loose, messy painting. I've really been enjoying that. So this color combination was one I wanted to try. So that's kind of where this whole thing sprouted from. Now I'm going to take a little bit of that Indian Throne here and I put it in and I'm like, so I wipe most of it up. Then I decide to take the Gray of Gray and I like that way more. I just like the way it looks with the pink a little more and the way it all blends in, and it's more in the same tone as the pink as opposed to that really deep Indian Throne Blue. I may have liked it more with like an indigo or a Payne's Gray you could try, but I just found the Indian Throne was a little bit too vibrant for what I was after for this particular card. So following kind of the same path here, except I'm keeping most of it, or all of it basically, outside of the floral image with the gray, and again lots of water, and blending that out and just kind of messily splatting it all around the background, mixing it in with the pink, etc., etc. Just nice and loose, and put the color on the paper. That's really all I'm after here, is to create the base for what I'm going to do on top of it. So getting that all done, I do take a little more of this Indian Throne, really trying to put it in here because I wanted it as part of the color combination, and mix it with that Gray of Gray. And I don't mind this. I find that it's not as vibrant. It actually almost looks exactly like the Gray of Gray when you look at it in the end. So like I said, it's a color you can definitely delete if you're trying to recreate this card for yourself. Adding just a little bit of that here and there to try and work that color in. And that's about all for our first layer. Then we walk away and let it dry, or in the case of me, you hit it with a heat gun and make it dry because you don't have the patience to leave it alone. Because that's what I did. I hope everybody had a great Christmas and you ate too much food, because I know I did, and hung out with those that you were allowed to or wanted to. We're not allowed to visit with or gather with families outside of our household or something like that, so I stayed home with the fiance and the boy. It was wonderful. We had a great time. But now I'm coming in with that Mars Violet, which is like a really deep maroony type of color, and I'm going to take it and go into all of the nooks and crevices of the flowers where it would pinch together and there would be a bit of a shadow. I start by wetting each petal individually and then going in with the Mars Violet and putting it in and blending it out. Then I'm lazy and I'm not adding a lot of pigment, so it's really not blooming out everywhere. I'm also not adding a lot of water. So what I'm going to end up doing is just taking a wet brush and putting water over top of the entire flower, and from there going in and doing the same thing. It just makes it go a little bit faster. I wasn't using enough water to reactivate the paints underneath of it. I wasn't scrubbing at it enough for that to be a problem. and it just made this whole painting process go a lot faster. Doesn't hurt my feelings if it goes faster. So again, just creating all of those shadows and giving these flowers a little bit more depth than they had before, and we're just going to follow that all the way around. I love this stamp set from Gina K. I've done this one once before. I can't remember if it was in a video or not, but it's definitely one of my favorites. I'm actually going to go and probably order some more stamp sets from her here very soon. I really enjoy the big, bold, beautiful floral images. They're kind of my jam, and I really enjoy watercoloring them, so I might as well have some more. I do really like how when this one comes together in the end, some of the petals are white, some of the petals are pink, some of them are half and half. They're all different tones, but they all have the same shadows underneath of them, which kind of ties it all together, as opposed to looking more like a tie-dyed flower. It kind of gives it all the appearance that it's supposed to be that way, when I don't think a flower looks like that in real life. I don't know. I don't paint anything according to traditional colors. I like to make blue flowers. They're probably one of my favorite things to paint. So yeah, they're definitely not like traditional by any stretch of the imagination, but they did come out very, very pretty in the end. I'm not even sure what to talk about, and we have a long ways to go of the exact same thing over and over and over again. So what should we talk about? What do I have coming up? Hopefully more videos. Oh look, I accidentally had paint on my brush when I went to wet that flower. Thankfully it was the right color, so it really doesn't matter. It'll blend into all of the shading. I forgot I did that. Silly. I don't know. I'm usually way more careful than that. But it wasn't a big issue. I wiped it up with a little bit of extra water and then took my rag there to the side and blotted it off. Yeah, lots more watercolor on the channel probably. Same old, making lots of cards, having lots of fun. Hopefully I can be a little more consistent with videos this year, but I'm not making any promises because I tend to say it's going to get better and then I fall off the face of the planet. Life, work, kid, you know. It's kind of the way things go. Now we're on to the little flower buds. It's the same thing. I do get a little bit more loose with these ones just because the images are a little tighter together, so I don't have to be quite as particular. You'll see on the last one I actually just kind of wet it and go in and dab a little bit of the maroon on and leave it alone. It didn't need all the detail as the rest just because it was so much smaller than all the other ones that we've done. I really do love this color combination. I think it is absolutely gorgeous in real life. You can see it a little better, a little more true to color in the photo at the beginning, and I also have it at the end of the video, and I just think that I just love it. I love this color combination. I'm really happy with it. As for the Holbein paints, ooh, that's something I haven't talked about. I haven't used a lot of Holbein watercolors. I have used their gouache and I have used their acrylic gouache, but not a lot of their watercolors. I really enjoyed them. Now I'm using them fresh out of the tube as opposed to dried in a palette, so I have no opinion about the dried in a palette thing, but I did find them really, really pretty. So now I'm painting in the little buds, and I tried to mix the gray of gray with the pink. Then I decided that was a little bit too neutral and I wasn't quite happy with it. It didn't feel punchy enough, like they were popping off the page the way I wanted them to. So I just went back and went over them and did them all just with the shell pink, and I think that turned out way prettier. You definitely see them a little more than you did when I had them mixed together. And then we're going to jump in and paint the leaves. We're coming to the end of this one, guys. This one, like I said, came together super fast. It was so fun and so easy. Filling in the last of those, then we'll paint in our leaves. And for the leaves, I just use the gray of gray color and put it on like the bottom 2/3 third of the leaf, and that's all I do. The top is whatever color it was when we first did all of the splashy paintings. So if there was pink and blue or pink and gray there, that's what's on the top of it. If there was white there, that's what's on the top of it. I wasn't being too particular about making sure all the colors were in the leaves. I just wanted to do that bottom little bit with the gray. Then I'll come in with some pink, and we're going to do splatters. I like splatters. So I started with the shell pink, and then I dry it with my heat gun. And then I go back with the gray of gray, and I'll dry that one with the heat gun. It's just kind of a process because I don't want the colors to mix together when I'm doing the splats. Here's some of that Mars red, what is it called? Mars violet, pardon me, Mars violet. Then I pull it off of the page here, and decide that I want a little bit of white actually. So I take some of my, this is white gouache from M. Graham. I put it in the middle of the palette. There's usually a glob of it in the middle of this palette anyway. And then I'm going to add a bunch of it to some water, and we're going to splat some white on there and dry that. I was definitely more liberal with the white than the other colors. Now I just have a black brush pen here, and I'm just going to fill in the center of the flowers only. I'm not going to outline everything like I usually do. I'm just going to do the centers of the flowers where all the stamens would be and make that really dark and bold. Mainly because there's places where the pink goes over it and there's places where it doesn't, and it just kind of looked messy to me, so I figured if I made it all black it would blend in a little bit better than it did before. And then I go on to the sentiment, and none of the sentiments that come in that stamp were quite bold enough for me to be able to make readable on the card when the card is finished. They were all a little bit too fine with how large the flower is. And I didn't want to put a banner or anything over top, so I pull out the massive peony stamp set, and I'm going to use this Every Moment is a Fresh Beginning. I put it on an acrylic block because it was right beside me and I didn't know where I stuck the Misty when I finished with it. Again, with the VersaFine Onyx Black ink, we're going to ink that up really good. You'll see my head get in the way here because I forgot to crop that out. You're welcome. Making sure it was lined up, then we'll push that one down. I will take my Pigma Micron pen and I'm going to outline all of those words just to make sure they're super bold. And then I take the bleed proof white ink. I just find this a little easier to use than gouache when it comes to adding a highlight underneath of all of our words in order to have them pop out of the page, because it's so busy where it's stamped in certain places over top of the flower and that. I find that that white outline underneath, just to make it pop out a little bit, really helps with you being able to read the sentiment on top of the card when it's finished. So I'm going to do that through all of the rest of the words. And then I have some gray cardstock here we're just going to mat this on top of. And then that entire thing is going to get put on top of a folded or side folding card base. I do believe the card base is like 4 3/4 by 6 3/4, something like that. And then I have some Nouveau drops in Oyster Gray, and we're going to add a bunch of those all over the front of the card. And that one will finish it off, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps me out a bunch. All the links to everything used will be in the description box below. If you have anything, questions or comments, definitely leave them in the comment box. I read them all. I try to get back to as many as I can. I will see you guys very soon in another video. Have a great day. Bye for now.